to The Fitterist Show with your host, Christopher Allen, where we explore the art of mind and body conditioning. In this week's episode, we look at 3 news headlines from the latest in nutrition, health, and wellness from the past week. And this week, first we check out a study that links attributes like happiness and productivity to exercise and the impact, if any, of an active lifestyle on those attributes. Second, we take a look at a survey of men's and women's different views on their health, their diet, and the way they perceive their overall wellness. Finally, we examine a few of the facts to help you determine if, and you might have heard this often, is grass-fed beef really better for you than grain-fed beef? So let's dive in. The first news story is a new survey of 2,000 employed Americans that found that the vast majority said that exercising regularly makes them happier, and they feel happier when they have a regular exercise routine. However, some people in the survey were a little lost in the land of excuses. The challenge that people have, not surprisingly, lies with finding the time and the energy to squeeze in exercise on a regular basis, particularly with those who indicated they had demanding jobs, they were busy carting kids around, attending soccer and softball and baseball games. Nearly half of those people polled said they were so busy with work that they don't have time to exercise at all. Further, even if they did have the time, they claim they don't really have the stamina or energy. Over half of the respondents say sitting down at their desk for 8 hours a day drains the energy out of them. So what a surprise. Being sedentary and lethargic makes you even more tired. and those same survey respondents, 6 in 10, 60% said that by the time they clock out for the day and they go home, they're way too tired to even think about going for a run or hitting the gym. Compounding that, 61% said that a gym membership is just too expensive for their budget. Finally, the last data point, 75% say that they would be twice as productive at work if they were able to take a break at some point during the day and get some exercise in. Well, despite these cascading excuses, the survey participants did indicate a strong desire to lead a more active. They wanted to be a more active, more consistent lifestyle, and they wanted to go from their current, what they kind of estimated at about 3 hours of exercise per week to something closer to 9 hours of physical activity per week. So oddly enough, it's exercise itself that does all the following. 1, it makes you happier. 2, it makes you more productive at work. 56% of these people surveyed said they work smarter when they're on a healthy exercise routine. It makes you healthier, not surprisingly. And 4, it helps combat depression and anxiety in the workplace and in your personal life. And those people, those 75% that said they would be, hey, I'd be twice as productive at work if I was able to take a break during the day and get some exercise in, about half of those people said that they would stay more motivated at work and they could find that motivation if their employer paid for their gym membership. So my take, I'm not so sure that the employer paying for a gym membership, not so sure on that one. It's a nice perk, for sure, but sometimes when you have no skin in the game, it actually makes you less inclined to take advantage of that benefit. If it's completely free, there's no potential cost or investment from you, you might be less inclined to actually exercise. You still have to want it. Look, most workplaces have free coffee, but millions of people go to Starbucks every day. They want a better experience. Also, from the Devils in the Details category, note that the survey was sponsored by and paid for by a company called GymPass. So they contracted a survey company. Survey company goes out, got the 2,000 respondents, came back with the results, delivered them to GymPass, who then released them. What does GymPass do, you might ask? Well, they partner with companies that then pay for all or part of their employee gym memberships. So they serve as kind of a broker between gyms and corporations. Corporations pay GymPass. GymPass strikes deals with other gyms in the area surrounding the workplace to get employees, quote, free gym memberships. So, not so surprising that almost half of the survey respondents wanted their company to pay for all or part of their gym membership. And those employees would be, quote, much more inclined to stay with their current employer rather than presumably leave for another job that pays for their gym membership if their company actually paid for their gym membership. Now, look, if you're going to leave your job over a gym membership, you got bigger problems, right? The job is not going to be fulfilling. You're not going to stay or leave a job because they help defray the cost of your exercise. Most companies do want to support healthy employees, consistent exercise, and some do some level of gym reimbursement, but gyms can be anywhere from $10 a month to hundreds of dollars a month. So look, I'm not saying that GymPass is a bad idea or a bad company, and there's some good survey data points in here, but you have to remember who's sponsoring the survey and how they intend to use the data. In this case, it's part of the GymPass marketing and sales toolkit that they shop out to companies as part of their customer company/acquisition strategy, right? They're trying to sign up companies to go with them to pay the regular benefits for employees to exercise. That said, the benefits of regular exercise are pretty well documented at this point and are highly valuable for both physical and mental health. But the bottom line, don't be one of those people that looks for excuses as to why you cannot exercise. I'm too tired. I'm not tall enough. I don't have the energy. Can't find the time. Focus on what you can do. You can't afford a gym right now? Great. Set your alarm 30 minutes earlier before you wake up and go for a walk every morning. There, problem solved. No out-of-pocket costs. You got the time. You got the energy. You just freaking slept all night. Go get it. You'll see the benefits of your discipline and consistency over time. News story number 2. The second news story is about how men and women kind of subtly see their own health a little differently. Now, the Mayo Clinic published a study in the American Journal of Health Behavior, and what they did is they surveyed the members of a fairly little used wellness center, and they were able to discern subtle ways that men and women saw their own health differently. So they surveyed almost 3,000 people at the Mayo Clinic Healthy Living Center, which is an employee wellness center. Just to give you an idea, corporate wellness centers are roughly an $8 billion business just in the United States. So it's not trivial business. And researchers really wanted to learn about why these wellness centers were really underutilized. And were there any gender-specific reasons why? So they started distributing surveys out across the wellness centers. And they got about almost 2,800 surveys back. 68% of those were women, and the average age across all genders, both genders, was 49. The survey questioned users about their health status, health conditions, their overall confidence in keeping up healthy habits, stress levels, and their overall social life. Men and women reported comparable levels of stress, and they both reported to be in favor of healthy living. That's always a good sign. Hey, I'm in favor of healthy living as opposed to decaying. According to the study, more men reported having hypertension, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, and tobacco use than the women. So what were their overall results and the findings? While there were some differences, although at first glance, the men and women respondents seemed fairly similar. Men felt that they were as healthy as women despite having disclosed more actual medical problems and issues. Women had lower self-reported levels of physical activity and felt a little less confident that they would keep up their exercise. The researchers started to look at and figure out, the difference that may have gender roots shown to be that influence self-efficacy, right? Particularly for physical activity. And so self-efficacy is just your belief in yourself to succeed in a specific situation or accomplishing a task. It's not a gender-specific trait, but understanding the gender differences in their perception and self-efficacy can help in the design to help optimize an employee wellness service for gender-specific programs. So their main takeaway was that confidence in maintaining healthy habits can be influenced by gender and also depends on which specific habit is being assessed, whether it's something like physical activity versus diet. There are gender differences in the way people approach, perceive, and execute on physical activity programs, and diet as part of an overall wellness. So it's important information to keep in mind when you're looking at designing wellness programs to really maximize their utilization and impact on employee health and wellness by tailoring those a little bit toward gender-specific programs. And our third news story. This third news story discusses whether grass-fed beef is better for you than grain-fed beef. So cattle today are often fed grains. The animals that people ate through evolution roamed free and actually ate grass, but in today's world, it's a little different. And studies have shown that the nutrients in beef can vary depending on what the cows eat. So let's take a look at this. Grain-fed versus grass-fed. Where beef is mass-produced, such as in the United States, cattle are usually grain-fed. They are pretty rapidly fattened up with grain-based feeds, usually made from soy or corn-based diets. Typically, their diet's also supplemented with small amounts of dried grass, but to maximize growth, cows are also sometimes given drugs such as antibiotics and potentially growth hormones to make them fatten up more rapidly. But in some parts of the world, cattle are grass-fed, which means that the cattle eat mostly grass. Now, grass-fed is often not a clearly defined term, but generally speaking, grass-fed cows eat mostly grass, while grain-fed cows eat mostly an unnatural diet based on corn and soy during the latter part of their lives. And generally, grasses and herbs are a more natural diet for cows than corn or soy. Well, let's take a look at the nutrition. And are there any differences? So before we do that, in general, beef is pretty nutritious. It's loaded with vitamin B12, B3, B6. It's got iron, selenium, zinc, trace minerals. It contains almost every nutrient that people need to survive. And it also contains, obviously, high-quality protein and lesser-known nutrients such as creatine, carnosine, which are important for muscles and brain. From a fat perspective, grass-fed beef usually contains less total fat than grain-fed beef, which means that gram for gram, grass-fed beef contains fewer calories. On the omega-6 and omega-3 fatty acids, omega-6 is basically the same between grass-fed and grain-fed, but grass-fed beef has almost 3 times the omega-3 fatty acids than the corn-fed beef. In vitamins, grass-fed beef is higher in vitamins A and E, as well as some of the other antioxidants. The other element to look at is cost and convenience. In the U.S., grass-fed beef is generally more expensive, and it may or may not be worth the extra cost for some people. Depending on where you live, it may be kind of inconvenient to buy grass-fed beef. Some people might live closer to a farmer's market or a Whole Foods store. Others may need to drive longer distances just to find grass-fed beef for purchase. From a taste perspective, there can be subtle differences in taste. Grass-fed beef, because of its lower fat concentration, can be leaner and have a slightly different texture. So what does it all boil down to? Even though the grass-fed beef contains higher amounts of certain nutrients, there's not really today any overly compelling evidence that it's significantly healthier than grain-fed beef in the context of a balanced diet. Look, some people prefer grass-fed, others prefer grain-fed. Try both, see which one you like better, and if you have an ethical rationale that feeds into that decision, that's great. They're both pretty healthy for you. With that, I'd like to thank you for taking the time to listen to The Fitterist Show. You can follow us on Instagram at FitteristMindBody and on Twitter at FitteristMind. If you enjoyed this episode, please send it to a friend or subscribe to make sure you don't miss any future episodes of The Fitterist Show. My name is Christopher Allen, and make it a magical day.